This first episode is an overview of life game design. It's a philosophy and a set of actionable frameworks to create a fulfilling life. I really like to distill the information that I have in my head and just learn out loud by writing a blog. And every week, I'm going to aim to write about a topic that I've been wanting to talk about and wanting to articulate in a more precise manner through a blog. But I also want to talk about it in a free form manner, slightly in the form of a podcast. So basically, I'll be going through the blog posts that I've written and then adding any parts of nuance that I want to extrapolate on within this podcast format. So I don't think anyone else has done this kind of format before. I think mostly people just try to either fully freeform their thoughts on podcasts, which is really cool, but I like having a very clear set of intentions of ideas and articulations of those ideas in a set format while also having that style of freeform. So this is my kind of meddling of those two. But with that said, let's get into the blogcast. This is episode 1. Life game design. There is a surge of videos catering to hundreds and thousands of people with either no direction in life or suffering from burnout. The quality of self-help frameworks and advice is at its best. These two factors don't make sense until you see the frame of mind self-help authors operate from. Self-help authors mostly use examples of success from corporate businesses to prove how their advice works to show you how to live your life. But life is so much more than your work or productivity. Structuring your life like a corporate business is just asking for a lack of fulfillment and burnout. If your sole focus is to just become the most efficient rat race robot, generate more revenue, and not care about relationships, leisure, creativity, or your mental health, then it's perfect. Business productivity techniques work for things we have to do, like at our job or life admin work. They lose their potency when applied to things we don't have to do, like meditation, working out, or eating healthy. This error in life management happens because the top priority in a corporate business is profit, and their last thought, if any, is their employees, who have to do the work to generate it. And somehow, we believe we will be more happier and more fulfilled from this system. We can structure our lives so that we are still productive in the areas we want to be without having to use a ton of willpower or feel like we are pointlessly burning out, chasing external rewards that we don't really want. You've already done this before in your childhood and have completely forgotten the goldmine of sustainable productivity techniques hidden in very alluring packaging. The masters of human fulfillment and productivity are the ones who put all their focus on the person doing the productive task to make them feel empowered, to give them constant feedback and encouragement. They purposefully design environments and provide tools for them to perform their best. You won't believe me when I say the geniuses behind this, who lead the $152 billion plus industry, bigger than the movie and music industries combined, are game designers. We never think of gamers as productive in the real world, but look into how much time, effort, and passion they put into games, and think for a minute why the hell they do it. So this was actually a real surprise to me. I heard this stat from George Mack, and just literally the fact that gaming and just the sect of online gaming is bigger than the box office, movie industry, and music combined shows us how much they know about what they're doing. George Mack has delved a bit into gamification because he understands how good the space is. He understands that game developers and game designers are literally the masters of human psychology because they have hacked into how people behave and how to empower their decisions, how to make them feel fulfilled. And that's why people like me previously were so addicted to games, because I think about how much time does a game designer spend on making a game fulfilling for the player? And in turn, how much time do I spend making sure that my own life is fulfilling? When I spend just like a little bit of time making sure or planning out a day that is fulfilling to me, a week that is fulfilling to me, I feel so much better in going towards achieving the things that I set out for myself. But if I don't, it just feels like a drag. And another quote from him is that life is just a very badly designed video game. And so I think back to when we were children, And the fact that it's almost like your parents design your environment for you in the same way that a game designer designs a game for a player. Back to the podcast. We never think of gamers as productive in the real world, but look into how much time, effort, and passion they put into games and think for a minute why the hell they do it. They have to pay to play these games, and to top it off, they don't even get paid for the hours they put into them. These aren't your typical fun and easy dopamine traps of mobile games. These are extremely hard and grueling challenging titles like the Souls series, including Elden Ring. Players die at a minimum of 10 times before they even reach the boss battle they are going towards, where they will die hundreds of times more in complete frustration. They go through these challenges in their own time willingly, and for no external reward, in contradiction to businesses that offer money and promotions. Imagine if you could take this drive towards achieving your goals in all areas of your life. Here's the catch. The answer doesn't lie in traditional gamification. The gamification of life became popular when people realized how enticing hard games can be, and people saw its potential, trying to copy game elements like XP leveling and reward systems to their lives. People would spend at least 10 hours developing these systems to add to an area of life like fitness, only to find that it didn't apply in the same manner as work or learning. The largest creator I found in this field, called The Gamified Life, had just a mere 2,500 subscribers. If the idea had any gravity, then surely there would be far more bigger life gamification experts and gurus. They have all failed because of low order concept thinking. Now, if you are familiar in the gamification space, then you would think, actually, there is someone who's huge and who has made it, and that's Yu-Kai Chao. But the problem with Yu-Kai Chao is that he only specifically focuses on gamification in business. He hasn't really shared publicly his works on lifestyle gamification, and the parts that I have seen are totally cringe. He's got these... I remember when I was trying to deep dive into life gamification, and he had this XP leveling algorithm for doing learning some sort of skill. And honestly, the thought of trying to go through that and having to apply algorithms to learning skills based on an XP system, like, it doesn't need to be that hard. This is an idea I call cringification, where you try to force life to be a game because you think, oh, if I have an XP leveling system like in a game, then that means if I apply it to life, it's going to be amazing. But it doesn't work like that. Yu-Kai Chao actually realizes this mistake when he took gamification to business, because businesses had the same idea where, oh, if I have a reward system like in a game and I apply it to my business for my customers, the business is going to be amazing. But he found that it doesn't work because it's low order concept thinking. You just try to apply game techniques one-to-one, instead of thinking of the higher order concept of why do these game techniques actually work the way they do? What are the variables that they tug on? And this is what Yu-Kai Chao discovered with his Octalysis framework. But again, it doesn't apply to the gamification of life because he didn't intend it to. And he still hasn't made that book, and I'm waiting for it. Back to the Blogcast. So low order concept thinking is taking the fact that gamers are productive in games, and without much thought of why that is, they implement game design elements into life in a one-to-one fashion, ending up in failure. If we want to access the gold mine of productivity from games and transfer it into real life, we have to follow Simon Sinek's advice and start with why. Why do game designers use this plethora of game design techniques? How does it make gamers addicted to boring or even frustrating tasks? After watching game development documentaries, I found that the number one goal of a game developer is to design the game to be fulfilling for the player. It seems a simple principle, but myself and many before me have made the mistake that we need to prioritize fun over fulfillment. Life gamification advocates only focus on game design techniques that make things more fun, like adding rewards or an XP bar to their tasks, but the majority of gameplay in a game like Elden Ring is actually pretty boring. Fulfillment is the secret tunnel through the staggering mountain of attaining happiness through success. Tiny little backstory, when I discovered that game designers optimize for fulfillment instead of optimizing for fun, I tried to find out and break down the elements or components that make up fulfillment. And honestly, there literally weren't any books on it. I tried to look for books that were a manual for creating a fulfilling life, but there literally is none. But game designers have literally mastered this, not in the context of life, but in the context of making fulfilling games. So in an episode later on in the series, I'll do a full deep dive onto the elements that I found about fulfillment, the multipliers that make experiences more fulfilling, and what happens is that it creates a tier list that shows you what are the most fulfilling memories for you going to be, and what are the least fulfilling memories going to be. And by discovering that, you can figure out, without having to use sheer willpower and force and discipline, if something is truly intrinsically fulfilling to you, like games were to me, then you will find the drive to do it out of nowhere, basically. I used to spend 10 hours playing games because they were designed to be so fulfilling, and it didn't feel like a chore or effort. It felt engaging and fun. And not only fun, even if it was boring, it felt, there's no other word for it, it felt fulfilling, and I was willing to go through the grind and frustration of the process to achieve the goal. And so I just think if we can apply that to life, which is exactly what we need to do, because self-improvement is always about delayed gratification. And game design always teaches gamers about delayed gratification in the hardest games, like Elden Ring. I did this thought experiment. It's extremely easy to think of a time you were happy or successful but unfulfilled. It's impossible to think of a time where you're fulfilled while worrying about being happy or successful. If we do something for the purpose of being happy, we will be far less willing to go through hardship. If we do something for the purpose of being fulfilled, we automatically understand the hardship we will need to go through for that fulfillment. And once we are fulfilled, we are generally happier. This is why people choose games that challenge them, like Elden Ring, instead of those that just make them happy. Many of my favorite authors and podcasters have already said life is like a game. We don't have to force it to be one. This traditional and useless gamification is what I call cringification. Spend 10 minutes looking into life gamification and you'll know exactly what I mean. Designing your life like the game it is, with a focus on internal fulfillment, is the philosophy I now call life game design. Tied to this philosophy is a large list of frameworks to make this actionable that have developed into a Notion app to literally organize your whole life. If we want to design our lives like a game, we need a framework to understand life itself, as fulfillment applies differently to each area of life. Later in this series, you'll see my fulfillment matrix to understand the elements of fulfillment and how they apply to each area of our life with my special framework that I use to understand, organize, and optimize each area of my life. If you have any interest in this new concept of life game design, I would seriously love to chat about it with you, maybe invite you on for a podcast, or even let you have access to the alpha version of this Notion app. Because I'm developing it at the moment to be a paid product, I need more people to test it out, see how they use it, especially in terms of the framework. So if you want to get in touch with me, I'll link my Instagram, that's where I'm most active, and where I'll also break down these blogcasts into infographics. But that's all I wanted to say about this blogcast. Thank you so much for joining me.